puncher's chance. Watch me lay these hands like a preacher gained a bunch of fans. Ain't about who the favorite, who the best, they a bunch of stands. Know I'm highly favored cause these fists got me out many jams. They say fight the power, but I got power to fight now. Know we gon' be barking at the way and tell them pipe down. Jab, right hook, uppercut, you see the light now. Now the crowd begging for the KO like right now. Never took an L with my shit up, hold them like a sit-up. This trainer going pops, Craig, get up. Never took an L with my shit up, hold them like a sit-up. This trainer going pops, Craig, get up.
Welcome to the Boxing Head podcast, where everything stays in the square circle. We are your hosts, CJ and Greg, the boxing enthusiast. Today we got
what's good.
What's good, G? You good?
Yeah.
Today, this week, by the way, G, hope you don't mind me saying that, but G has a birthday coming up.
Oh yeah. Yes, sir.
He has a birthday coming up. Without further ado, though, we have a special guest. Let me see what that is. I hear an echo in the background. I wonder if that's but yeah, we'll start back. We got a special guest with us, but before we start with the questions, I got an introduction. So coming from Ocean City, New Jersey, former head trainer of Crossfire Boxing Academy, former instructor of the Capital Punishment Boxing Club, current executive director of the Capital Area Fitness Academy, USA Boxing official. And when I mean official, he does everything. Vice president of the U.S. Boxing Mid-Atlantic Association, member of Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated by way of Kappa Omega chapter. Let's give it up for our brother Wayne Thompson Jr. Welcome to the show, brother. I hope that was enough for you, man. Because
that was quite a bit.
That was quite a bit.
I'm good with it though.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm getting a lot of feedback from your mic. I can hear you in Wayne's mic.
Who, mine? You can hear mine?
I hear you and Wayne from Wayne's computer. I hear it playing. I hear myself talking.
Okay. Hey Wayne, do you got it on? Do you have it on the speaker or?
Oh, okay. What do I have to do to turn the sound down?
Now you sound better when you speak.
Okay. What about
now? I'm kind of podcasting thing, so
it's all good.
I'm not sure if you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you good.
Yeah, I hear you.
I think it sounds good now.
That's better.
Okay, that's better. I dropped the volume on my machine a little bit.
Okay.
How about now?
Yeah,
you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing. I can barely hear you guys, though.
You can barely hear us? Yeah. Oh, okay. So you probably got to switch the You got to probably switch the headphones instead of speaker if you got one. So if it's on, you probably can't. She said it was on speaker. So can you hear us okay now? Okay.
Is that for Greg or for me?
For you.
No, that's for you, Wayne.
I can hear you guys fine.
Okay. I still hear that echo in the back a little bit. Are you on 2 devices or just one right now?
I'm on one device. I had gotten my back working while we were between, but I had to reboot.
Oh, okay.
So I only have one device working.
Okay.
Okay.
I was trying to see where that sounded. Okay. Okay, because I'm still hearing it a little bit. But yeah, we can not too much. We can go ahead and start up. So thanks for joining us on this show. We really appreciate you. I know a lot of times when I'm on the show, I tell people about when I did my judging. Wayne was most definitely the guy who mentored me. I wonder if you remember that when I first called you. You said, "Hey, I just want to judge." You was like, "Call this person," but you gave me a lot of like tools and a lot of knowledge behind it, and I appreciate you for that.
Well, we all thank you. We always need more officials. Um, if the officials and doctors are usually the ones we have to lead stuff. So when anybody ever expresses an interest in becoming an official, I'm really quick to help out.
Okay. Yeah, most definitely is, and you'll pick up your phone quick. So we got you here because we got a few questions. So I'm gonna go ahead and just start it off. I'm gonna just start the fire off. So we got a lot of like stuff that's been happening at Boston, like that's a reason. Okay. Okay. So hey Wayne, when you're not talking, just mute your volume when you're not talking. So then that way the echo's not coming in. Yeah, there we go. So we still here. So okay. Yeah, so the first question I'm gonna start off with, because we had the Better Beef and Baval fight, and it was a real close fight. When it got to the judges table, it got real tricky. So that last judge, I don't know if you saw that fight, but it scored it like 116 to 112, which was like out of this world. But my first question for you is, like, when judges or like refs kind of like make a controversial move like that, do you think that something should be done, and how do you feel about that?
Okay, there's already kind of a procedure in place. First of all, you receive public ridicule. And secondly, you basically get voted to the less important bouts. Uh,
Mm.
you only have a few times to mess up a big bout until we never see you again. So there is a punishment in place. Now the only thing that the boxer has in play is the rematch. You know what I mean. If you believe that an official has done something so egregious, like there's some judges have actually been suspended, and usually what happens is if you score bad fights, you start moving down because they evaluate the judges.
Mhm.
And later you find yourself not on the big card anymore, or you're doing the undercard bouts where you can do less damage. Because bad decisions, although it creates controversy, which creates interest in boxing, it's not
Mhm.
good for boxing overall.
Yeah.
And that's why amateurs right now they're trying to go to that AI system that we tried out at the last JOs.
Yeah, I
And
was
by
looking at
JOs,
that.
I'm talking.
Yeah. Yeah, I was looking at that. They had like cameras. They had like cameras like on top of the
Right.
ring.
Their cameras up on a pole. Of course, the cameras have a view that nobody else does, and they have an AI that actually is able to track which punches in computer speed. So that the AI knows which punches landed and and whatnot. But it's just like the rest of AI; it's still learning. When we first got there, they had the scoring area too small. So the AI was not scoring legal punches that were
Mm.
say uh, in the forehead. The AI had cut it off right here. The punches that were scored were not scored by the AI. So the AI's got another 3 or 4 years before uh, I say we were training our replacements basically.
Yeah. Yeah. AI is real. AI is real
Yep.
for sure.
The AI doesn't have to look through the boxers. It doesn't have to try to look through the referee's butt if he's in your face. Since the cameras are up on the thing, there's no obstruction to their view.
Wow. Yeah, I can see that coming from pro.
Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah, and I feel like the AI should be like, you know, to be times where, okay, it's a very close fight. I feel like we should be able to look at the AI and say, oh, okay, well, AI says this. I feel like that should be something that we just keep in the chamber for, like, you know, disputes. If a fighter say, hey, I think I won that fight, I want to see the real facts, and I feel like AI should come involved in that situation. But I think I like the regular 3 judges. I don't like the idea of AI replacing officials, but you know, I feel like it should be a deal when it comes down to disputes.
I think I never thought about using it as the tiebreaker. I just, you know, when I did it at we didn't have it on a live ring. We had it on the ring, but the AI was not live scoring. The AI, we were putting our things into the AI, and we were still actually counting the punches, but counting punches is not really counting the quality of a blow. So by us counting the punches, the AI is starting to try to figure out what we were seeing. And so if all of us hit the button around the same time and the AI thought we scored there, it sort of reinforces what it's looking for. And it learns from that.
Okay. Go ahead, G. I know you had a few questions. G got some real good questions.
Oh yeah, for sure. So you know, we always say that one of the best seats in the house is, like, you know, ringside. You know, you right there, right in the front of you can see. But you know, nobody would have a better seat than the actual official, than the person who's in the ring looking at these 2 fighters go at it toe to toe. So my first question is, being in the ring, seeing 2 fighters, what is the most craziest or most spectacular moment you've experienced in the ring as an official, whether it be just a supernatural type of athletic talent, or whether you just like, oh my God, what is this? Like, just give us a time where you was like, oh my God.
I've been in the ring with Jerron Ennis before, and then I've also judged his fights when he was fighting in the Pennsylvania Golden Gloves, and none of those fights went to the card. He was head and shoulders above everybody else in the competition. But the wildest thing I actually saw was I was doing a collegiate boxing tournament in Lock Haven, Pennsylvania, and they had one kid in the ring that was 6'7", 245 pounds, and his opponent was like 6'1" and probably about 210, 215, and that guy was a football player. Well, the 6'7" kid wasn't very athletic, but he was 6'7", 245, and so all he could basically do was throw a jab, and he knew how to throw a straight right hand. Well, you know, football players, being who they are used to getting their way, and they're used to running through the front door. Well, this football player charged the 245-pound guy, and he tossed one right down the pipe, and it hit him on the chin, and blood splattered on my shirt like a Rocky movie. And the football player, hit the ground with his legs bent underneath him, and he's on the ground telling me, I'm all right, I'm all right, I'm all right. And I immediately turned around and called the referee, and I didn't even bother to count because I knew he was done for. But to see that on an HBO broadcast is one thing. To be 4 feet from it is something completely different. And I mean, this kid, he thought he was all right, but he was turned completely off.
Wow. Hey, Wayne, do you know what we call that here on the Boxer Head podcast? We call that getting sent to the shadow realm. Yeah.
I don't believe they saw much after that. I mean, I was glad when they finally got him out of the ring, but I just turned around and called the doc immediately. And then I went and changed in my spare.
Did you ever see him again? That fighter? Did you ever see him again pop up?
I never saw the football player again, but I saw the other kid. And the next two bouts I saw him, one other bout, his power bailed him out. He lost every minute of every round and landed that big right hand and won again. And then the last time I saw him, I saw somebody that wasn't dumb enough to charge him, and he lost every minute of that round, of every round of that fight.
Wow. So
Man,
yeah, that's crazy. So not in conjunction, but the next question is a follow-up. So you've seen something crazy like that, and I know you also do training as well for like amateurs and pros, correct? Like you've done it in the past. Between judging and or reffing, which one would you rather do if you had to pick one?
Between judging and reffing?
Yeah.
Or did you say trainer or official?
Well, we can do trainer and official, just official, because I know you do many things.
Okay, well, that's kind of a difficult question because I really like both of them. Being a trainer is wonderful. You get to start a kid, and some kids you get to start out from the beginning, and you can watch them progress. But you can only coach the athlete in front of you. A lot of times, you're at the mercy of who comes through the door, and every coach wants to make a champion, but every person that comes through that door is not a champion. Now, as an official, I've actually had more success. I've touched more lives because as a trainer, I only get to touch some, but as an official, I've been all over the country, and I've got to see people from everywhere. So for me, right now, being official actually beats being a trainer by a hair. But I reserve the right to change that answer if the right kid walks through the door. Because you have some kids that come through that have a whole lot of talent, and you want to see them succeed, but then they don't stay around that long. Now, what was the other variation of that question?
Oh, it was just the decision between those two, officiating and training. Which one would you, if you had to pick one, which one would you rather be in? But you said the officiating would be more.
Until I get a kid that walks through the door with the talent of a Roy Jones, right now it's officiating.
Yeah, Boston's a little different now. Like, but you never know. It's always that one kid that walks in one day and you just see it. And
well, you know who Bowie Fisher is?
No, I don't.
He used to train Bernard.
Okay.
He used to train Bernard Hopkins. Well, his sons are our fraternity brothers. So I knew them, and both of them had worked bouts with him. And his one son said to me, he said, the one thing my father taught me is, as a trainer, you might have 1,000 kids walk through that door. And of those 1,000 kids, you might get one with the talent to make it and be a star. Your job as a coach is to be ready when that one kid walks through the door.
Wow.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, it do.
Yeah, it makes sense. I guess we just don't never really look at it from that, because we kind of just, it's hard. It's not as many coaches, or it's not as many coaches as it is fighters. So we always look from the fighter perspective. We never really look at it from the coach's perspective. But I do got another question for you. So I wrote that if you could change something about boxing or a rule, what would it be? Something that you might just, you look at the sport and your years of, being in the ring and reffing. What would it be if you could change any rule that they have now that you like? I don't really like that. What would it be?
I would make them go back to same day weigh-ins for the professionals. You got those guys now that come in on weigh in at 154 and fight time they come in 175, or the guy Canelo fought the other night. Berlanga came in at what?
193,
160.
193.
What was their actual weight class when they weighed in? Was it 168?
Yeah.
Right.
And then he comes to at 193. Come on, man. That even though Canelo won, I just don't like that.
Yeah.
They're going to get somebody hurt, and I don't like the dehydration and trying to rehydrate, and I think it's just bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had a whole show about that. Devin Haney fought Regis Prograis at 140. The night of the fight, I think Devin Haney came in at 160, 165 or something like that. It was something ridiculous. We like, that's a whole nother weight class.
Yeah. Now he wants to sue what's he want to sue Ryan Garcia now?
Yeah.
Ryan. Yeah.
They're putting it on him.
Yeah.
Yeah. Since you brought that up, how do you feel about that?
I don't like to use raw language. This is your podcast, but you know you're in the game to put hands on people. So now you're going to file a battery charge? Stop playing.
Yeah. I agree. You know what I said? I said Cotto had it worse. And Cotto got it back in blood. So why can't Devin do the same thing? You know? Yeah,
Cotto
I feel like that's like I feel like that's like, you know, some criminal, some thief calling the police on drug deal. You know, it's like, come on, man. We you know what y'all in the business to do. Stop it.
Yep. And I think Ryan won that case. I saw the picture of him with his lawyer, and like, I think he beat that. I think that case is gone now. That battery charge.
Yeah, he got it. He got it dropped.
Yeah. So it's like ain't no really like you do all that and then like it's really no going back to that rematch after you didn't do that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no.
Not. But what I'm saying is Devin got that fight taken off of his record. He doesn't have to fight Garcia again if he doesn't want to. Just move on with your life.
Yeah.
I'd be bringing attention to that, especially if people remember how bad you got your butt kicked.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was pretty bad.
Yeah, it was bad.
All right, my last question. I got one more. What's the greatest advice you received as an official from anybody who kind of just brought you up in the game? You know, just or just from a fighter perspective, or you know, somebody, you know, just gave you some great advice and was like, all right, cool, I can live by that. And it changed you as a person. Just the greatest advice you've ever received.
The first time I was going to referee a bout, I was scared to death. But they told me, I never intended to be a referee. But what happened one night is we ended up short. And the guy looked over and I'm 6'4". So he said, you're too big to be sitting over here judging bouts. You need to get in the ring. So they basically put me in the ring. And the last thing he said to me before I got in the ring, he said that if you don't remember anything else, that you need to remember that you are in charge. He said, you're in charge of what goes on in there.
So how did that first bout go?
Man,
first bout go?
I was actually nervous, but I did okay. I thought I didn't know the rules well enough, and I did pretty good. And right now I'm considered a pretty good referee. I've been out for a while because I had a kidney transplant. But I just got back in the ring a couple months ago, and I feel like I'm moving pretty well. I was actually nervous about getting hit in this new kidney, or the stamina level was being down a little bit, but everything's worked out fine.
That's good. That's good. That's good. Um, my question that I had is, and it's actually, almost the same thing. Um, if you could give anybody advice, so say like if I came to you and said, "Hey, I want to be an official," what is something that you will give to them for them to make?
Well, I would think the first thing you need to know.
Mhm.
Did you hear that? Or
Yeah,
I'm seeing that music.
yeah, I can hear you.
The first thing the first is if you don't know, ask. Because you never stop learning and you never stop studying. Um, you should learn how to film study. When I came up, if you didn't have if you didn't have a gym near you, somebody who had boxed before willing to train, you couldn't learn anything because trainers kept all that stuff to themselves.
Yeah.
Today, that's not the case. In the 70s and 80s, when VCR came out, then you could tape a fight and then run it back and forth and start to learn what was going on in the ring. Then in the late 80s, they started coming out with instructional tape, the VHS tape, and then books started coming out. And then later on, recently, it was DVDs, and now you can download training sessions from the internet or even subscribe to a trainer. So my suggestion is never stop learning because the game is going to change. And
Mhm.
then you'll see fighters like even a few years ago, I had never seen like anything like Vasily Lomachenko before, a guy that moved that way.
Mhm.
Um, when I was young, the Russians and Cubans could not turn professional. Now you have the Russians are no longer just the Russians. It's broken up into all those countries. So you have Uzbekistan, Kazakhstan, uh, Ukraine. All those guys would have been on the Russian team a long time ago. And there's only a certain number of guys that can go on a team. So now uh, what you actually see in the ring, the way the Russian guys move is completely different than the American guys move. Uh, and the Cuban system is also a derivative of that whole Russian system. Uh, Bivol is actually my favorite technical fighter right now. Just the
Yep.
way that guy moves in and out is amazing.
Man, it's like an illusion, you know. It's like he's rocking. He'll get the shots off, and by the time you try to get it, he already has his distance already. Like it's that's what I said. I think I said that last podcast. Yeah, I said I think Bibble has like the best style, like right now. Like it's
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
And see, at the amateur level, you don't see that until you start doing until you start doing an international competition. But what has changed is a few years ago at the Olympic Training Center, they got a guy there named Billy Walsh, who's from Ireland, and they started training what they call now the universal boxer. In the old days, uh, anybody who went in the gym, they trained you to fight out of the right-handed style because if you were a left-hander, you couldn't get a fight. And then sooner or later, they started training people left-handed. But at first, what you would do is if they train a left-hander as a right-hander, my friend Virgil Hill is actually left-handed, and they trained him as a right-hander. So his strong hand was up front, and so you got like guys like Oscar De La Hoya. Basically, Oscar De La Hoya was another converted southpaw. All his power was up front. Well, now they've gotten to this thing where they're training the universal boxers. So they start you out in a squared stance and teach you that you can throw punches from either side. and they give you this way of walking that you can walk forward and backwards and continue to throw punches. And I think that's what's so amazing about when you watch Bivol or any of these guys from the old Eastern Bloc, is that they're able to move and continue to punch when they're moving in any direction, and then in the middle of the combination, we can switch stances.
Mm. And that's knowledge right there, y'all. That's knowledge right there. It's starting you because they do like a square, right? And you have them step in, you have them step like front side.
They kind of start you with your feet parallel, rather than putting you in either a southpaw or a orthodox position. They start you with your feet parallel, and then they have you start to turn your knees in, and you start throwing punches there. So you get used to using both hands, and then you realize, let's say if you take a step back, when you take a step back, you step back with the same leg that you're going to punch with. When you step forward, it's actually the opposite. So what you find is when you start training the way they teach, you're actually able to get more punches off.
Wow, that's, you know what, Wayne, you're a good trainer too. Because the reason why I say that.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. I was saying the reason why I say that is I can tell that when you have your fighters, I can tell that you break it down to them too, to where they understand fully exactly everything they're doing, like from legs. Why am I moving this way? Why am I punching this way? Why is my feet this way?
That's absolutely true, and a lot of people wanted to work with me because I think the thing is I wanted to learn how to do it too. So I'm not naturally gifted at it. People are just born fighters. Other people have to teach out. Some people are born fighters, but I always looked at boxing as technical. And once you start learning all the technical, you can figure out. Let's say a move takes 3 beats. But what I found out is sometimes in the Russian system, it only takes 2 beats to complete the same move because they move their feet differently. So it's little things like that I show people that'll give you an edge that anybody that you got some trainers that stopped learning things in the 70s, and they still train the way they did in the 70s. That's 50 years ago. No sport is the same as it was 50 years ago. Why should boxing be?
Okay. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, boxing does change. Boxing change. It evolves. You see different fighters. You see the craziest thing about boxing is you see fighters come and go, and you may see a fighter who you say, "Hey, this guy's the future," and all it takes is that one fight. And sometimes fighters don't recover from that loss, and sometimes they do. But that's just boxing. Boxing is like just a pool of changed events. Like it's like you stirring water. It's like you got a big bucket of water. You got all this Kool-Aid in it, right? And you see it in there, and then you turn it, and you think it's one color, but then it changes to another color. Like boxing is forever changing. And like me and G, we always in our show, like we tell people never get too emotionally attached to a fighter, because your favorite fighter now, he may be gone tomorrow. And if you get too emotionally attached to these fighters to where it just takes you out of the game, like you missing the whole excitement out of boxing.
Yeah, I can tell you that I enjoyed training and basically just had enough and walked away from it. And you sit there and think all this time and all the time that I gave this guy, he just turned around and walked away.
Mm-hmm.
Then at some point in time, they get hurt or their family situation changed. And, it's even more difficult at the 4 and 6 fight level or at the professional. It's tough. Uh, you get 15, $2,500, and then they'll fly you into a Mayweather card, throw you in with a guy that had 400 amateur fight, well, maybe 200 amateur fight, and get the stuff and beat out of you. And you only had 4 amateur fights,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the people get in that ring because of that money, and then you get sent to the shadow realm, and you still got to pay everybody else. So then at the end of the day, and then that money you using, that money that you got after you pay your trainers and stuff, after you pay your trainers, you probably got to use that money for the hospital bill. So now you back at square one. So like, I hope everybody listening to this, is very important to like, don't just like, if there's any like fighters out there who listen to this, don't just take the fight because of the because sometimes people get too excited and they hear it, right? Like, man, I never had $20,000 before. Let me go ahead and in the room.
Well, then the thing, you owe taxes on $20,000. That tax does not come out check. They give you the whole check. And then what you find out, I've told some of these young guys, they get this money and I look up and they come to the gym next week with 12 tattoos on them. And I say, how much you pay for those tattoos? And then, they tell me whatever they pay for the tattoos. I say, how much that money did you put away for? You got tattoos, you got gold. How much did you put aside for the tax man? And they look at me like, what? Yes, you have to pay tax on
that. Yeah, man.
Tattoos. But yeah, when we get back, we can go to commercial break. When we get back, one thing we didn't ask you is just like how you plan to like get into boxing and everything. So when we come back from commercial break, we'll get a little bit of your backstory, just the origin of how you came to the man that you are now. So we'll be back after this commercial break.
Summer's almost here, and you still haven't did that spring cleaning? No need to worry. Golden Touch Premium Service and Sanitation will take care of everything, from cars, homes, even buildings. And check this out. All products are eco-friendly. So go ahead and go on the website and book an appointment, or if you have further concerns and questions, go ahead and send an email. Clean, just Golden Touch away. The secret is out. Everyone is using Potty products. Potty products toilet paper is 2-ply and has 450 sheets per roll. And it won't clog your toilet because it's septic safe. You can get same day, next day delivery or shipping when you log on and place an order at potty-products.com. Spend $48 and get free shipping, or subscribe on the site and get free monthly shipping. Remember to use Potty products.
And we are back on the Resilient Radio Stream YouTube channel, Boxing Head Podcast. Like, comment, and subscribe. If you want a commercial like that, or you have a business and you want to do advertisement, go ahead and look at the advertisement opportunities that we have. So go ahead and just email us at that email, and we'll send you a packet of the advertising opportunities. But of course, I got to do the good news like I always do. The Variety Music Show with Resilient J every Friday from 4 p.m. to 7 p.m. The Music Missing Pot with all genres of music played. Former MMA and UFC fighter Clifford Big Cat starts Fighters Formula segment is during the show as well. And don't forget to check out children's author Ty Allen Jackson and his words of the day on the application or on www.resilientradio.net. Also, we just had a premiere show yesterday, Toxic R&B. Yep, the name that you hear is exactly what it is. So Toxic R&B is going to be airing on Tuesdays from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. And Lucy, she is a great MC. Y'all make sure y'all check that out every Tuesday from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. on Tuesdays. And also, we got premiering on October 26th from 10 p.m. to 1 a.m. the new Quiet Storm station. Make sure y'all stay tuned for that. If you old school and you remember the Quiet Storm, this is the new Quiet Storm. So it's going to give you that same music, that same feel. Also, don't forget Saturdays is the 90s music show with DJ Prasmatic. Saturday from 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. Make sure y'all check that out too. She playing some real 90s hits on there too. She playing Pete Rock. I know some of you young kids don't know who Pete Rock is, but go ahead and check that out every Saturday from 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. And this fall, actually coming up real soon, we got Detroit Girl Transform podcast with Tony Carter. Make sure you look out for that. So we are back, and we got some real great knowledge from Wayne, just from the trainer's perspective and the official perspective. But one thing that we didn't ask him, just his upbringing and just how he came to become an official and trainer. So Wayne, if you could just tell us like your story on how everything came about.
Okay, I basically have had a spotty starting and stopping and everything. I like most kids, I grew up during the Muhammad Ali era, followed by Sugar Ray Leonard. So I watched all those guys, but there wasn't a boxing program in my area. So we would get gloves and go out in the backyard and box and all that. But I didn't really get to a real gym until I moved to Philadelphia. And when I was in college, a girlfriend I had lived, her brother was a boxer, and she lived right across the street from the gym. So I went in there, and when I really got interested. But the thing I found is, I think I was 18 or 19 then. There's kids that have been there since they were 10 or 12 years old. So I was like, wow, I can't really. Their boxes were already built for it. So I couldn't. And I was also playing basketball at the time. So it wasn't really a time for me to get in it. Well, years later, there's still more gaps. So that got me interested. So I started buying stuff. And whenever there was a gym around that I could go to, I'd go in and pay the fee. And I'd go in and hit, like Atlantic City had a gym there, and the Pleasantville Pal. And I would pay my money and go in there and hit the bag sometimes. And if there was a boxer there, I'd just walk up and ask him something, because boxers are like the most approachable ones. So I was building my knowledge a little bit, but I really did not get into it until the 90s. And I was already 40-something years old. So what I was trying to do at that point was I was actually trying to start a white collar boxing league. So I started going to gyms and asking to be trained. But at that time, I had some health issues that I didn't know about, and I thought it was just my basketball injuries. So I was training for a while, and I realized that I could not do it. And so what I started doing is I started trying to help the kids. I had already been a basketball coach, and my kids were starting to get bigger, so I needed something to do with my time, and I always wanted to box. So I went to this gym, and like I said, I started training for. I got into it starting for myself, and then I ended up helping kids. And I found out that I was pretty decent, and all those I was telling you earlier about VHS tapes and VCR, the stuff I studied. People thought I knew more than I actually did, and so the gym is the place where you prove all these theories. You know, some of these things look like they work, or you thought you saw, you didn't see. But I was having success with the kids. So a couple of years I was at, because I didn't agree with the trainer on some things, and I went to another gym, and a guy asked me to train him for a professional fight. And the thing I knew best at that time was to get them in condition. And then I one thing I knew how to help them fight a left, and I had given him some advice. And this guy that had been beating him up all the time, uh, he was able to beat him after I taught him. So then I got to work my first couple corners because I worked professional corner before I actually got in an amateur corner. And then after that, I ran into Virgil Hill. Of one of my best friends was hanging out with Virgil Hill at the time, and Virgil was the on the same Olympic team as Pernell Whitaker, Evander Holyfield, and them. But Virgil won a silver medal, but he was also the first one of them to win a world title, I think. So he had this class he was doing. It was boxing. He called it bodio, and basically you wore boxing gloves. You had a boxing station, then a cardio station, whatever. I hit the mitts for him, and he asked me. He said, "You play basketball?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "You really wasted your time." I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "You could have been doing this. You should have been doing this," and that's what really got me into it. So that's what really, I didn't think at my age I had a future doing anything, but then now I'm helping these kids out, and what happened is the gym was shut down, and so in order to stay into the boxing game, one guy asked me, he said, "Look, you're well spoken. Why don't you become an official and help us out?" And I became an official. So that's basically how I got to where I am now. And that's probably, that's probably like a 20-something year or almost 30 years worth of backing into it. But I didn't really see, I became a trainer in 2009. I became a referee official in 2013. And that's what I've been doing ever since then. I'm sorry, that's a long version, but
No,
it's good. It's good.
perfect.
I got into it the way a traditional, like a little kid walks into a gym at 10, 12 years old. Somebody trains him, he boxes and blah, blah, blah. I don't have that background. And it's probably better that I didn't, because I didn't have the work ethic that was required, and I probably would have gotten beat up. I was athletic, but I didn't have. You have to really work hard. I would have been in that what do you call it, the phantom zone, or what did you say that was?
The shadow realm.
I probably would have visited the shadow realm quite a few times.
Oh, and by the way, Wayne, the shadow realm is just basically this. It's just a place filled with voidness for the unconscious. So basically, you get knocked out and you go to sleep.
Yeah, that's what I said. I would have been in the shadow realm.
Oh man. So,
well, it's like the old phrase is, you can't play boxing.
mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? You go and you think you know what you're doing, and you get hit with a shot, and all of a sudden you look up and you say, "Why am I looking up at the light?"
Yep. It's real. Like I was what's that movie? You remember that movie called Southpaw? It was a movie called Southpaw, and I think Southpaw was it was a great movie because it showed like the main fighter in that movie, after he had his fight, he was like in his bed and like he just woke up and he started throwing up. That's the reality for fighters. Like people think like after they fight, they go to the hotel and they good. Sometimes they be having side effects. Sometimes they have to eat Jello for a whole week because the amount of body shots they get or the amount of damage that they've gotten. Like boxing, like you're right, boxing is not a game.
The last time, I'll give you a story similar to that. I was with Virgil Hill when he won his last title in Atlantic City against Valery Bruto, and Virgil did real. He got caught with a shot in like the 6th or 7th round. It split his eye. I mean, a big split. And what I can my most poignant memory from that event is all of us went to after it was over. We were in the dressing room waiting for the doctor to come check him out. The doctor never came because I was the one keeping people from coming in the dressing room. The doctor never came to check him out, and then the guy from the WBA just came in and I let him in to give him a belt, and then Virgil came out, and afterwards they started talking about the after party. All of us were headed to the after party. Virgil had nobody but his wife, and he's going down the hall, still has his boxing gear and robe on his way to the emergency room. All the rest of us are going to the party. He's on his way to the emergency room. And that memory stuck with me, just watching him walk down the hall with nobody but his wife.
Mm. You know, it was a saying that they said, "There's no friends in boxing." Everybody is there to celebrate with you when you win. Everybody's at the after party. Everybody is cheering you on. But sometimes when you lose, that's when you really find out who's really in your corner, not your little boxing corner, but in your corner. Yeah, man.
Yeah, that really told me something. How many friends does he really have?
Yeah. At least stay there with him until he get it. Like the party's going to be there. People are going to be there for the party. You know. Yeah.
He had to get that eye.
That's a crazy story.
That cut was like 2 inches long, and he had scar tissue from other bouts. But what I'm saying is that upstairs at the party, and all these people were up there because now. But he's not even there to celebrate, and he's the one. I saw him the night before the fight. He came in the gym to shake out, and he actually had the flu. And I watched him do 10 rounds of just dancing around and moving around the ring without throwing any punches. And then he did 10 rounds of shadow boxing after the 10 rounds of just moving. So he did 20 rounds the night before the fight, and he had the flu. I mean, how many people can do 20 rounds of anything with the flu?
That's crazy.
I learned so much, and I was only there for the last week of his training camp, and I learned so much just that week. It was amazing to me.
20 rounds, and then you said he had the flu.
Hey, hey, thanks for sharing that story, bro. That's so much perspective right there. That's crazy.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
Yeah, but yeah, we appreciate you joining us on this podcast and giving us the insight. Giving us your backstory, giving us insight. Answering the questions, because here, we always talk about the fights and the fighters, but we wanted to get it from a official's perspective of just how the square circle is visioned and how it's looked at, and like even the backstories, just like you had some great backstories. Like I like when you mentioned Jerron in this, because he's still special now. You got people that's scared to fight him now, so it's good to hear that. Like even as an amateur, he was good, and I know that makes you feel good to see that. Like I remember him when he was a kid. Now he's basically the boogeyman because nobody wants to fight him, it seems like. Yeah, so we really
I'm really just glad. I'm glad to be on. I've been on a couple of podcasts, but not a lot. But I really enjoy doing these things because sometimes I don't even plan to tell any of these stories, but you take it to some of your questions, just bring them out, and it's just the appropriate time to say it.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I think boxing podcasts are very important because, like we were saying, like we say all the time on here, too, like you have like your main sports channels like ESPN. They don't really cover boxing unless it's a fight, and like they'll show you they'll show you the fight, but after that, that's it. All right, let's get back to basketball, football, So I always say, like, it's good to have boxing podcasts because, boxing is an old sport, but it's also keeping boxing alive in a way, Somebody had a comment. Oh, yeah, the flu ain't no joke. And, like, you think 3 minutes, you think 3 minutes is like, oh, that's easy. I can be 3 minutes around. It don't feel like 3 minutes when you it don't feel like 3 minutes. It feels like 3 hours. But yeah,
especially when somebody's hit you.
Oh yeah. Especially they got power. You like, oh, I got 2 minutes left. I might not make it.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I would imagine that if your eye is open, it would become a less issue.
Would you say, G? Say it again.
You're in the ring. I said I would imagine that if your eye is open and you trying to, win the fight and make it out, I don't even think that the flu probably was even the issue no more after that happened. He's probably just like, I'm trying to win this fight and bring it home. But anyway, just even making it there and with the mental issue, the mental pressure of going in there and fighting for a championship, that could be a lot.
You were at the stage of the career that Virgil was in. Right now, Canelo or somebody like that can pull out of a fight and nothing much will happen. But most guys can't afford to get out of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They need that check. Yeah. But yeah, Wayne, we appreciate you. And thanks to everybody who tuned in. We really appreciate you. By the way, too, I know that you know a lot of like fighters and stuff. Just to let you know, Boxing Head Podcast, we are open to do like interviews with even the amateur fighters because we know amateur fighters need some type of platform, to speak on. And Boxing Head Podcast is home to them. So if you know any, and I know you were saying until you see that fighter, then that's weird. But if you run into like any amateurs and you say, you know what, you need to get your name out, bring them to the Boxing Head Podcast, and we'll for sure make sure they get their name out and get their flowers, at an early stage,
That because I have a couple people in mind for you, guys that I've been in a couple of gyms since I started. One kid I used to work with a while ago, right now is on the high performance team, which is he's doing international boxing right now. We had a couple kids from the gym now have WBC. One of them has 2 WBC titles, and they're both signed to Don King right now. And they've got like 11 fights, and I've known them since they were like 12 years old.
Wow. Yeah, if they want to come on the show, they're most welcome to come on the show and talk about it. We'll talk about their past, present, and the future, So with that being said, this is the Boxing Head Podcast. Of course, we're going to keep it boxing. We'll keep it in the square circle. And until next time, everybody take care. And it's some fights coming up real soon, so make sure y'all check out these upcoming fights coming up too. And we'll see you next Wednesday.
If you taking jabs in life, you ain't got a puncher's chance. Watch me lay these hands like a preacher gained a bunch of fans. Ain't about who the favorite, who the best, they a bunch of stands. Know I'm highly favored cause these fists got me out many jams.